I'm Joe Duffy of OffshoreInsiders.com, and on this report, we're going to tell you how to use the so-called luck factor, and it's able to isolate who the overrated and underrated teams are. Make sure you do follow me on Twitter at Offshore Insider. Yes, the website is Offshore Insiders, but because of character limitations, it's at Offshore Insider on Twitter. And most importantly, if you do like this information, and of course you're going to like this information, please literally like it. If you're watching maybe the rebroadcast on Periscope, give us a heart, share, embed, retweet, etc. And most importantly, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments section, and I will try to answer any question that you have. In fact, I will definitely answer any legitimate question that you do have. Now, what exactly is the luck factor? The luck factor, I'm pretty sure it was Ken Pomeroy was the first person to come up with this. He at KenPom.com. And basically what it is it says teams that, the theory behind it is that teams that win the most close games are going to be the most lucky teams. And if teams, for the most part, are losing their close games, they're very unlucky. And that is enormously important from a handicapping standpoint, because I tell you time and time again, the single most overrated statistic out there is wins and losses. When we're talking about football or basketball, we're not concerned about straight up wins and losses. We're concerned about which team covers. And there you can see at Ken Pomeroy, and this, again, this is what we call an evergreen video, but at the time that we do record this, Tennessee Tech, they would be the luckiest team in the country, and Washington would be the second luckiest, etc. Now, Ken Pomeroy is only a college basketball site. To the credit, TeamRankings, which is a site that we do like a lot, they've applied it in all sports, including college basketball, and I noticed there's a slight variance between the Pomeroy and the TeamRankings rankings in college basketball. They use slightly different criterion, but they're very close. But all in all, we do agree with them. We found these to be very effective. And in fact, we like the way that at least TeamRankings breaks it down specifically by their different rankings. And of course, this one is their luck rankings. Now, to give you an example, the ideal matchup would be Boston, the luckiest team in the NBA at the time this database has been updated, versus Dallas, the unluckiest team. So the teams at the bottom, in fact, would be the teams that we want to bet on. Yes, we actually want to bet on because they're the teams that are the most undervalued. The unluckiest teams are better than their straight-up record. The luckiest teams are better. Or the luckiest teams are not as good as their straight-up record. So the unluckiest teams would be the most undervalued. The luckiest teams would be the most overvalued. And this really is a time saver because years and years ago when I got started in this business, like I said, I've been doing this publicly going back to 1988 and privately before that. And in the real early days, we used to have the Jim Feist Sports and Gaming Newswire, which they combined with the Sports Ticker, and then they would add their own gambling stuff. But I'd have to go through the games manually and then try to isolate which teams were not quite as good as their record, and which teams were much better than their straight-up record when it came to overvalued and undervalued. And I have to take assiduous notes, etc. But man, now that we've got these computer systems, KenPom and sites like TeamRankings, I think maybe even AccuScore also does the luck ratings. I'm not all that sure. I know they do the sweat barometer. We'll talk about that in another video. But again, there is no metric out there that you want to blindly bet, but the luck ratings and the luck rankings we particularly love, and it's more important than the ratings where you can see the numbers next to it. For example, Dallas is far and away the unluckiest team in the NBA. It really doesn't matter who's rated ahead of them or behind them. But when you're well into the negative numbers, you know that you have a very undervalued team. When you're well into the positive numbers, you have a very overvalued team. There is no one metric you should blindly bet, but when you have a huge gap, when you have one of the unluckiest teams in the NBA or whatever sport we're talking about, this is true in any sport, when you have one of the unluckiest teams against one of the luckiest teams, usually you're going to get very good value there. And it's kind of consistent with a lot of the other metrics we use. We talk about regression to the mean. You'll usually find it's not going to be a clear blind correlation. It's not going to be the same rankings, but for the most part, you'll see that the unluckiest teams are some of the worst spread teams to date, and the luckiest teams are some of the better spread teams. And you know that we found when there's a big difference between a team's ATS margin, you go with the worst team. But that's for another video and a podcast at the time. Well, folks, like we said, if you want more free, great information like that, please, literally, give us a like. Give us a like and share this information. And again, the experts tell us that that is a vote of confidence that the search engines like, and also of enormous importance, mybookie.ag. It's a win-win situation for you. Set up an account at mybookie.ag. If you enter promo code Duffy, you will get the largest bonus that they allow. But the single most important thing in it for you, especially if you're a client of Joe Duffy's Picks or offshoreinsiders.com, of course, you're going to be getting paid a whole heck of a lot more than you're going to be making redeposits. They do pay you on time, never a problem. The sports books that I recommend at offshoreinsiders.com are based on personal experience, but really, maybe more important, because I want the experience of a lot of people. So I definitely get the feedback from my clients. Everybody, whether it's people I sent there years ago or even in the past couple weeks, continue to send clients there to mybookie.ag. They all tell me how much they love them. Setting up your account initially was very easy. Bitcoin, it'll show up in your account within a minute or two. And when you want to withdraw, you will be able to withdraw on time. Mybookie.ag, enter the promo code Duffy. You should always shop around for the best lines. We have other sports books at offshoreinsiders.com that we heartily recommend. And by the way, all these are cross-referenced at the legitimate watchdog sites. We will never send you to a sports book that I would not use myself and that has not passed a lot of layers of really proving that they are one of the best sports books in the world. There really are about a half dozen that stand head and shoulders above the rest, and I've thoroughly vetted them at offshoreinsiders.com, the place to go for the best picks in the history of the handicapping industry.